Imagine your perfect partner. They treat you well, they're just your type, they have everything that you want to build your future. But there's one catch. You don't love him. Is love transactional? Is it just a business deal? Is it a risk worth investing in? Would you still take that leap if they had nothing? This all might seem a little bit materialistic, but that's exactly what this movie's about. I got myself to the theater to watch The Materialists, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal, and I have very conflicting feelings on it. It's marketed as a rom-com, and it sets up like a rom-com, but about 30 minutes into the movie, there's a shift in tone, and I still can't quite put my finger on it. So let's dive into the ups and downs of this new movie written and directed by Celine Song, formerly known for Past Lives. And I'm gonna tell you all the ways I believe this movie could be fixed. There's gonna be 3 parts of this video. There's gonna be part 1, which is gonna be about the plot. So I'm gonna go over the plot and the details and kind of just an overview of what happens in the movie. The second part is gonna be the problems that I found with the movie. So anything that I believe was a big enough problem to note. And part 3 is gonna be ways that I think we could have found a solution for the movie to be more of a longevity film, because I do think that in total, whether you like the movie or not, I don't think Materialists is going to be a movie that stands the test of time. Make sure you guys subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $5 a month. There's exclusive videos on there. As you know, my Final Destination video only lives on my Patreon because YouTube wouldn't let me post it. So you can find it. It lives on my Patreon. It is only $5 a month. You get early access to videos, no ads, and sometimes exclusive videos. So make sure you guys subscribe. There'll be a link in the description, or you can go to this link right here. The film follows Lucy, played by Dakota Johnson, as she navigates her life and her career as a matchmaker. She's very successful at her job. It's shown in the movie that she has actually had 9 of her matches get married, so it's a very good career. She's living it up. She's having the best time of her life. Her roadblock comes when one of her clients, that goes by the name of Sophie, has issues finding a match. All these dates that she goes on, she's not finding a connection. She's liking the guys, but then the guys aren't liking her. She's an older woman, and Dakota Johnson, Lucy, is having an issue finding her perfect match. And that's just a very small snippet of Sophie and Lucy's job, but we will come back to that later because it's a much more vital part of the story later on. Okay. So Lucy goes to a wedding for one of her clients that is getting married. But at this wedding, she ends up meeting Harry, played by Pedro Pascal, and he is a handsome, rich, like head turner man that walks into a room. Everybody's looking at him. He's charming, he's nice, he's handsome, he's tall, he's, you know, everything. And he obviously takes an interest to her because he hears her talking to a bunch of these women about her matchmaking, because they're asking her how she knew that the couple would be a fit and all this type of stuff. He starts flirting with her, and they start having this interaction, and she's like, you know what, like, I don't want to date you, but you would be a great client. Like, I know tons of women. You would be perfect for my roster, basically. As she meets Harry, she also crosses paths with John. John is a broke, aspiring theater actor that is doing cater waitering and side gigs to make ends meet in New York City. It seems like it's been ages since John and Lucy have seen each other, and she actually goes out to find him on one of his breaks. They share this scene where they talk to each other, and they both reveal that they still miss each other, and we're still kind of up in the air and wondering why they didn't work out, because they seem to have this magnetic pull within these scenes, that they still have some sort of tension, some sort of interest, but we're not quite sure what went wrong. The reveal later on is that the main point of conflict between Lucy and John when they were a couple was finances. They have a flashback which shows the fights and the arguments between Lucy and John about money. This fight, that kind of is the pinnacle of their downfall of their relationship, revolves around a dinner date. It's around an anniversary dinner. They're late to the dinner reservation. John doesn't want to pay for expensive parking because he's broke. They end up fighting in the middle of the street. Lucy gets out of the car. They start arguing, and Lucy lets out this frustration about how she's upset, and she's upset that they're broke, and she's upset for being mad at him that he's broke, and it makes her feel like an awful person because she's mad that they can afford to do things and that they can have a nice dinner and that they're fighting over street parking on their anniversary. A main point of the story comes straight from Lucy many times, and it's kind of repeated over and over again within the movie, is that she believes that dating and love is about meeting certain criteria. You can find your perfect match if you meet the right criteria. I'm obviously not going to go in depth about everything they said. One, because I forgot it. Two, because you can just go watch the movie. So if the flashback with John showcased fighting over $25 parking and screaming in the street about how she hates that he's broke, then cut to Harry. She starts going on dates with Harry, which is a complete opposite approach. He showers her with personal drivers, big flower bouquets, fine dining. He takes her to his $12 million penthouse and has sex with her. It's like everything that you could want on paper. They end up becoming a couple and he becomes her boyfriend. I honestly think that this introduction of their relationship is very boring. I think that they really do try to give Pedro Pascal some nice lines to say, and they are so forgettable by the end of the movie, in my opinion. So this is a huge shift in the movie, and I want to approach this with as much decorum and sensitivity as possible. There will be mentions of sexual assault within this next portion of me talking about the movie, and probably throughout the rest of the video, because I will be talking about this and referencing back to it. So if that is something that is triggering to you, if that is something that you cannot handle, then I will see you in the next video. It is completely fine if you skip this. And if you are planning on seeing The Materialists, but you are worried about when this scene comes up, it comes up about halfway through the movie when her boss pulls her in for a discussion about one of her clients. So back to Sophie. Lucy sets up Sophie with this guy named Mark, I think. She talks to Sophie before the date. She says, I hope it goes well. I think this guy is really nice. He meets all your criteria. I hope you have a very good date. She sends Sophie off on the date, and then Lucy goes and has like a great date with Harry. That's when she ends up going to the penthouse, and she accepts to being his girlfriend, and then they have sex and whatever. The morning after, she's doing her work and she's calling her clients like she's supposed to. So she calls Sophie. Sophie doesn't answer. She calls her again. Sophie doesn't answer. Lucy finally goes into work and is pulled into a conversation with her boss, and her boss reveals to her that the date that Sophie went on, she was actually assaulted by Mark. Her boss tells her that she is no longer allowed to have contact with Sophie because Sophie is suing the company, and I'm assuming also pressing charges against Mark. Lucy begins to panic and question whether or not how much help she is really providing within her job. Lucy ends up going to seek out Sophie in public and trying to apologize to her. She goes up to her and she tries to apologize. She's also wearing a weird trench coat in this scene, which makes her look even more scary as she's approaching the woman that she just traumatized for the rest of her life. And Sophie states that she believes that Lucy only set her up with this guy because of a last resort pull. Lucy is obviously very upset by this, but that's gonna come back later. Once again, we have a very different tonal switch of the movie back to the trials and tribulations of romance, right? You just went from sexual assault, deep and heavy, court cases, you're talking about like suing a matchmaking company for not doing a proper vetting system on men that they're setting up with very vulnerable women, and we're switching the tone back to romance and Lucy's issues with finding connections with people because she's a cynic, let's get back to the cynic finding love. I gotta get back to that after seeing everything else that happened in the movie. It's, that's the important part. Lucy and Harry share a scene that leads to them breaking up. The conversation starts because Lucy finds out that Harry got leg lengthening surgery. He admits that he got leg lengthening surgery with his brother and that has improved their life by a lot. He states that before he got this, no one respected him, no girls hit on him, no one wanted him, he was a freaking loser. He was a freaking loser, short loser. He says that it improved his work life, it improved his romance life. It's a very weird scene. Everybody in the theater was literally laughing because it was just so odd. Because it's it's coming after this kind of heavy stuff that we're seeing, and it's really set up like a serious scene, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later about the problems I find with this movie, but it is really set up, in my opinion, like something, like some shit is about to go down. Like, what the fuck are those scars? Like, I had no idea what that was about. They had a prior conversation at the beginning of the movie with one of her coworkers where she talks about how if you're over 6 feet tall, that improves your chance in the market by a certain percentage, and that common thing that men are doing is getting leg lengthening surgery, but you can only do it if you're super rich because the surgery costs like $200,000. And he like goes up to her and he like crouches down to about 5'6", and he's like looking up at her, and it's like the most bizarre scene ever. I have no idea what it was trying to be. It's talked about in this very like sensitive way that like it was almost revealed like he had like a serious condition of some sort. Like, it's very much set up like that. And then he's like crouching down, and it's like this like wide view of them in the kitchen, and Pedro Pascal like crouched down looking up at Dakota Johnson, and she's telling him that like they should break up, and it's a very bizarre scene. Like, I could not keep it together. I was literally watching this movie by myself, and like everybody was like, it's just like this like sigh in the audience of like what is going on? Like, genuinely, what is happening? She thinks that they should break up, and he's like, why? Like, we're a perfect match. You're everything that I want. You're everything that I want my life to look like. And she's like, but you don't love me. That's the whole purpose of his plot, his character, is to show her that even if she found the perfect unicorn man on paper, that was the perfect height, job, looks, kind, charming, yada, 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 that, like, it doesn't matter if you're not in love with him. Like, yes! Like, and this obviously ends up driving her back to John. She ends up going to John's apartment and being like, Hannah, I have a place to stay. I actually was subletting my apartment for the time that I went to Iceland, and so now I don't have a place to stay because I canceled the trip to Iceland. They end up going out of town. They end up crashing a wedding, kissing on the dance floor. This obviously upsets John, and he's like, you know, what the heck are you doing? Like, why'd you kiss me? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, does this mean we're getting back together? She's like, what? He's like, does this mean we're getting back together? Because if it doesn't, then I don't want to hear any of it. He kind of stands on business. It's clocking to him that he's standing on business. He's like, I'm staying on business. Don't kiss me if we're not getting back together because I'm still in love with you. Have been, always will be in love with you. Like, he says this beautiful line that I think is like one of the biggest takeaways from the movie, and it's a kind of a sentiment that like I think even Lucy says earlier on in the film, where she says, when you're finding your partner, you're not finding who's going to be a good first impression on a date. You're finding the person that, she says something along the lines of like, you want to grow old with. You want to envision the person you're on a date with old and wrinkled and gray. Like, that's the sign that you love someone, not if they make a good first impression on the date. And he tells her that when he looks at her, he sees wrinkles, he sees growing old, he sees gray hair, he sees kids that look like her. And it was like, honestly, I know it's so simple, but like those types of simple romantic scenes always get me. So I was just like, oh my God, like, I don't know, like, rom-com Chris Evans is back, and I've waited time and time again for this to happen, and it was just, you know, I'm a sucker for those types of scenes. She says that he shouldn't want her, that he wouldn't want her, that she's a bad person, that she's superficial and materialistic, and that as he's confessing this love to her and telling her that he wants to like grow old with her and love her forever, all she was thinking about was that if she gets back together with him, that she would be signing up for
dates at shitty restaurants and driving in his shitty car and living at a shitty apartment and watching him do shitty plays.
She was so mean in this scene. Like, I'm all for hating men, and like I get it. Sometimes you have to like yell at a broke man, but even it was a bit much for me. I was like, okay, you said it. That was enough. That was one too many. And he basically says like, girl, like, I know who you are. Like, you think this is all a secret. The door is glass. Like, I know all of this about you. I know this and I still love you. And this is all halted. This whole moment is halted because Lucy ends up getting a phone call from her client, Sophie. Sophie tells her in a panic that the date who assaulted her is outside of her apartment trying to get in. It's very serious. Lucy and John go, and by the time that they get there, the man is gone, but obviously Sophie is still in distress, and Sophie is in distress, and Lucy goes in to comfort her. I am so sorry. I don't have a lot of recollection of what this conversation entailed. I try my best, guys, but I'm not writing physical notes in the theater. I can't see anything. I am not bringing a light, and I can't see anything. I can't write anything in the theater, so I have to do this all off memory. But essentially, the feeling of the scene and what I remember about the scene is that this is Lucy's aha moment. Where Sophie's sharing that she's like, why can't I just find a nice guy? Like, I deserve that. I deserve to have a nice guy. And it's Lucy's like aha moment where it clicks that like, and this sounds so stupid, where it finally clicks to her that like criteria isn't everything, because this is simplifying it. And I know that there's a deeper way to look at this, but for the purpose of recapping the movie, it clicks to her that like fitting criteria and what might seem like a good match isn't, because obviously the guy that she set up with this client of hers met all the criteria and was an awful person. That's not all what the scene entailed. Like, it was a much deeper conversation than that, and obviously I'm watering it down because I did forget some of it, but it's like this like clicking moment for Lucy where she's like, you know what, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I will love the person. Like, I am going to be with the person I love. And she goes outside and she talks to John and she's like, you can go. He stays all night because he's just such a good guy. John tells her that loving her is the easiest thing that he does. John ends up telling her that loving her is the easiest thing he's ever done. And he offers her a deal. He says that I promise to love you forever, basically, and get a better job and work more catering gigs and get rid of my shitty car, if it means like getting to be like, I'm gonna do better and be more of the person that you want me to be, because I love you and I you know, I love you so much, I will do that. She accepts and she's like, basically like, I love you too, and they end up together. Obviously more stuff happens in that scene, but like, if it's not staying with me 2 days after I watch the movie, then it obviously is not that great of a scene. She also claims by the end of the movie, she's like seen on a phone call saying that she's gonna quit her job, even though the job is like offering her the boss position at the company, and she's like, actually, I'm like probably gonna give in my resignation letter tomorrow, like I'm gonna quit. And then the last scene is of John and Lucy, and John gives her like a flower ring, which is a callback to the beginning of the movie. The first frame of the movie is like a cave woman and caveman that are like getting engaged, and he gives her a flower ring, and that's the end of the movie. Okay, let's go into the problems of the movie. This is gonna be like a rant section because honestly, I didn't find amazing points to argue for this movie. I would love to say that there were some solid points about why I loved this movie, but there really aren't. But it's a little forgettable in my opinion. And I think part of that comes within my first problem, which is finding the tone. The movie has such a hard time finding the tone and where they want to head with the direction of it. Is it a rom-com? Is it a romance? Is it a drama? Is it's serious? Is it about the dark side of dating? Is it about the downfall of materialistic ideologies? What is it about? And what's the tone of that? Because that can be set up in so many different ways. You can have a character grappling with their materialistic ideologies, and it can be very dark, it can be very self-deprecating, it can be very depressing, or it can be really funny, and it can be really humorous, and it can be very positive by the end of the movie. It could be about a love triangle, and it could be about choosing between what you need versus what you want. It could be so many different things, and I feel like this is what the movie struggles with, is finding what tone it wants. And I think that you can put a lot of things into one movie, and you can tell a lot of stories, and you can tell a lot of different perspectives in one movie, but the overall tone has to be established to make a beneficial ending, in my opinion. The first 30 minutes is a rom-com. It's classic. It's montages. It's her talking to all these different, people, these clients. It's fast. It's, she's girl bossy. She's, it's funny the way she's talking to these clients. She's meeting Pedro Pascal, and it's romantic, and it's, upbeat, and it's sexy. And then she sees her ex, and it's, oh my God, does she still have feelings for this ex? And it's interesting, and it's fire. You're getting a little bit of sexy. You're getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
A little hint of spiciness, like a little hint of soy sauce. A little hint of the tomato.
I would say about 30 to 45 minutes in, maybe about like halfway through the second act, the tone of the movie completely shifts. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that necessarily means that the movie is bad if it switches tone, but it likes to jump back and forth. And that's my problem with this movie. The point of the story, in my opinion, revolves around what you think you want versus what will fulfill you. What seems nice on paper, but what in reality will actually fulfill you and give you a meaningful life. And I find these to be very, very interesting points of the movie. These are not at all uninteresting to me. I have so many conversations in my own life about love and materialistic things and the dating pool and my views on it. And I know that sometimes, I could be in the minority of things when it comes to my views on this, but I love talking about it. I love talking about materialistic things within dating and what that means to you and how much value you're really putting into temporary, ever evolving things in life. And why I'm telling you I find interest in that is not just to be like, I kind of think the movie's interesting, but because I do think that there's a story to be told in there. And just because that there's this kind of common sense idea that like obviously materialistic items and things and what you have will not be forever, but love can be, just because it's more of a common thought. I do think that there's an interest and something very fascinating about showing almost this taboo part of people that I think a lot of people feel, which is that they want these things.
I want the rich man. I want this life. I want someone to be on my level. I want someone that's in my league, who looks wise, personality wise, finance wise, job wise.
And that's a lot of times people fear about talking about that because it can sound materialistic. And so I do find value within that story. I don't want to just water it down to something that, since it's kind of this common knowledge of like, yeah, money can't buy you love, that like I find no value in the story, because I do. I find it to be very interesting, and I love the idea of having this kind of morally gray character at the center of your story. Do I think they do a good job in this movie with that? No. Another problem I found was useless, unimportant characters, and I'm so sorry, but like I do think Pedro Pascal's character falls in there. Has no fault on Pedro Pascal at all. Like love him down, but like I do think that Harry has got to be one of the worst characters written ever. I do think that a lot of this that's the points me into a corner where it's like he is just so surface level, and that's kind of the point, is for her to meet this superficial guy that has everything that she wants but is not like a douchebag. He's like nice but like very boring and not someone that she could ever love. And maybe that's the point. I didn't like it. I don't think he was problematic. He wasn't evil. He wasn't mean. He wasn't bad at all, but he was boring. And I honestly think that being boring in this day and age is worse. If this was a rom-com, a true rom-com, his lack of importance and energy would not really affect me. I think that it would be standard protocol for rom-coms, is that you gotta have someone a little boring so that it's way easier for the audience to choose. The Gales of the world, the Jacobs of the world. It's like, sorry, they have to exist so that we can have a comparison for why this one option is like way better. Why the Edwards of the world are so amazing, not just looks wise, I think that there is a great story within dating apps and matchmakers and the dating field within this day and age, and the dangers that come along with it. I think that there is a wonderful story at the center of that topic. I also think that there's a wonderful story at the center of superficial aspects of dating and cosmetic parts of dating and the covers of dating. I do think that there's a very interesting part of that. I don't think that they should be in the same plot. Another problem I have is committing to the characters that you've created. I think that these three characters at the center of the story can be very complex and very dynamic in contrast with each other. I think that in ways that they try to show Harry's materialistic ideas that he shares with Lucy, I don't think that they show that off really well, because although that they had criteria that matched each other, they also had this idea that meeting the criteria was the solution. And that was a really interesting part of their characters that aligned. And with John, he was broke, but he wasn't like broke in a bad way. It was very tiptoeing around the struggles he faced. It was tiptoeing around being poor in New York. You know, the roommates in the small apartment, but it was like there's so much other things that entails than just he's got a beard and he steps in dirty things at the apartment and it's loud in the apartment. Like, tiptoes into these characters. It doesn't commit to what you're writing. And I'm not saying you have to make caricatures out of these characters and you have to make them super dramatic, and I think maybe in a comedy you would, which it could have been a rom-com and it tries to be parts of the movie. But I think these are very halfway in characters in my opinion. But with like Lucy and John, it's like Lucy could be a very complex character, and at some time, like, they almost get there. They almost get there when she's like, I'm a bad person. When she's grappling with this like idea that the things that she wants in life, she believes makes her a bad person. Like, there's some meat in that aspect of her story, and it feels almost satisfying. It feels almost just enough. So it's really hard to see that moral dilemma around superficial ideas and superficial conflicts within your life and within dating and within romance and with relationships when your character is kind of halfway, half out. The closest thing I got to that was when she's like, I don't want to live in your shitty car and your shitty life and your shitty restaurants and your shitty apartment. Like, that was the closest I got to seeing that kind of meat and dirt and grime of her character that she so claimed that she was. That was when I almost got it. And it was almost enough. And same with John. I really wish they showed some of the nitty gritties of his character, and because they didn't break up for no reason. And it's framed a little bit like he is kind of like argumentative in the car and unwilling and cheap. And I wish they pushed that a little harder. I wish they pushed out that a little bit more of that, what life is really like when you're poor and how that affects your relationships. I really did wish they went into that, because they go into how the materialistic things in life aren't fulfilling, and how if you don't have love, that it is not enough in this movie's perspective. Or at least for our main characters, at least for Lucy's, it's not effective enough for her to just have the materialistic things. But I really did wish they went into more about John and the effects that being broke and living in America, living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, how that affects you, how that affects your health and affects how you treat other people, and how it genuinely does affect your partners, because it does. Financial like issues is one of the biggest reasons for divorce, for breakups, for family issues, family trauma. Financial stability is like one of the most important things, and is one of the hardest things to deal with in a relationship. These are really interesting parts and really ugly parts of life that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but they're very fascinating. And I think that there are pockets of this movie where it almost gets there. But I think the solution to the movie would really be peeling back those layers a little bit, consolidating what you're talking about, and finding and sticking to not only the tone of the movies, but committing to the characters as well. I think that was my biggest thing, where I was left very, not confused. I understood the point of the movie, or at least the message that I took from the movie. And I guess that wasn't a big revelation to me that, you know, material things within love are temporary and don't mean anything really at the end of the day. But I don't need to have some sort of revelation to like the movie, or to find it to be a great delivery of that message, or that point. But I think that this movie found a hard time figuring out what it wanted to be and what story it wanted to tell and who it wanted to tell it to. Where do I put this movie in my like catalog of movies? I'm not saying that you have to fit in one genre. I'm all about breaking genres and breaking the norms. You know, I'm all for it. But like, you gotta have something that like wraps it up. Like, you really do have to have something that wraps it up. Like, it cannot just be like whatever you want at the end of the day. I would absolutely love to hear what you guys thought of this movie, because obviously I'm still very conflicted about my feelings about it. I can't really decide whether I really, really hated it or just like moderately liked it. I would love to know your thoughts on it, because I can completely understand why people would also like this movie. It can be really simple and it can be very straightforward, but then I think that there's a lot of ways that it could really push that next level, and I think it's like a missed opportunity that it didn't. So please leave your comments, leave long comments, leave multiple comments. I'm so intrigued by what you guys have to say, because when I left that movie, I was like, I genuinely have no idea what just happened. And not only no idea what just happened, I have no idea what my own feelings are about it. And I immediately went home and wrote a video on it, because I could not like just sit alone with these thoughts. I had to tell someone about it. So please let me know what you guys thought of this movie. Make sure you subscribe so you can see more videos from me, and let me know what other movies you guys want me to talk about. I know this is obviously not a commentary, but this movie just came out and I wanted to get on it while it was hot. If it is. Share this video with your friends and give the video a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. It sends out my videos to so many more people, so please do that if you liked it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!